Morning, everyone. I hope you had a good Easter. Starting this week, we're going to start talking about quadrilaterals. All right. Specifically, today, we're going to be talking about parallelograms and the different types of those that we have. All right. So, the first one we have is a parallelogram. All right. It is a quadrilateral, just meaning a quadrilateral is any shape with four sides. All right. So, a parallelogram is a quadrilateral, and the only special thing about it is that opposite sides are parallel, meaning they would never cross. All right. So if you look down at the picture, A to D is parallel to B and C, and AB is parallel to CD. All right. So both those opposite sides are parallel. All right. Other interesting things that we know about it is that also these opposite sides are congruent. All right. So A to D is the same as B to C, and the distance from A to B is the same as C to D. The opposite angles are congruent, so like angle B and angle D are the same. Angle A and angle C are the same. All right. Consecutive angles are supplementary. All that means angle A plus angle B equals 180. C plus D is 180. A plus D is 180. B plus C is 180. All right. The diagonals bisect each other. That's the last one we have down there. And what that means is if I were to draw the diagonals here, so that would be a line from B to D, or the line from A to C, all right, these diagonals, they cut each other in half. So A to the middle is the same as C to the middle. D to the middle is the same as B to the middle. All right, that's all that one's saying. Now, all right, everything that's true for this parallelogram here is also true for the rectangle, the rhombus, and the square. All right, the reason why that is because all three, the rectangle, rhombus, and square, have opposite sides that are parallel. So like the top and the bottom of the rectangle, they'll never cross. The left and right sides of the rectangle will never cross. All right. So everything that we just talked about for that parallelogram is also true for our rectangle, our rhombus, and our square. They're just a little bit more specific. All right. Rectangle, what makes it more specific is it has four congruent angles. All right. Another way of saying it is it has four right angles. All right. The extra things that we can add there. All right. There's four right angles, but this diagonal right here, going from the bottom left to the top right, is the exact same distance as the one from the top left to the bottom left. Those two diagonal lines are the same. For the parallelogram, they might not be. For a rectangle, they'll always be the same. Those are our two new ones. All right. Notice a square also has four right angles. All right. So both of those are true for a square as well. All right. Because a square is a rectangle. All right. A square has four right angles. All right. Our third one is a rhombus. It just has four congruent sides. All right. Notice the opposite ones are still parallel because it's a type of parallelogram. All right. Now, it doesn't have four right angles on the outside. So this part, notice there's nothing here. All right. So it doesn't have four right angles on the sides. Its diagonals are not congruent. All right. Because that's not true. All right. Its four sides are congruent. So notice that A to D is the same as A to B, which is the same as B to C, which is the same as C to D. All right, all four sides are the same. Its diagonals, they're not the same, but they make right angles here in the center. That was a bad circle. Hold on, guys. All right, all those are the same right there. All right, they still cut each other in half because it's a parallelogram. All right, the other thing though about these diagonals is it cuts everything. They're perpendicular there in the middle. They also split each one of these angles in half. All right, so if A in total, let's say, is 60 degrees, all right, it splits it so the top is 30, the bottom is 30. And that looks really bad. Sorry, guys. 30, 30. All right. Since it's a type of parallelogram, if A is 60, A and D in total have to be 180 because they're supplementary. So this would have to be 120. The diagonal splits it in half, so we got 60 here, 60 there. All right. Obviously, we could find the other ones there too. All right, but those are the special things there about a rhombus. All right. Then we have a square, which is literally just the combination of a parallelogram, a rectangle, and a rhombus. All right. So everything we talked about for a parallelogram is true, as you can see there. All right. All this is true. Everything for a rectangle is true. Everything for a rhombus is true. All right. So guys, what's really going to help you with this, and what I would recommend, is that while you're working on your assignment, you have this chart right beside you, or where you can easily access it and see it. All right. That's what's really going to help you all. All right. Because there's a lot of information there. All right. Notice, if you're looking at the pictures too, we can tell a whole lot of this stuff just from knowing, is it a parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, or square? All right, so I would make sure I have this chart with me while I'm working on stuff. All right, as we look down here and look, there's just a couple examples of how we're actually using that information. All right, so this first one, we got parallelogram A, B, C, and D. All right. We know, since it's a parallelogram, these sides are parallel and these sides are parallel. All right. Also, if we go back up there and look, we have opposite angles are congruent. All right. That means A and C are the same. All right. And since these lines are parallel, if you think back to when we talked about parallel lines, this diagonal splits it into two. All right, and we have alternate interior angles between x and 13. That's why x is 13. All right, and we're getting alternate interior. Notice, because they're between the sides that are parallel and on opposite sides of that diagonal. And they're equal because the lines are parallel. All right. Now I'm going to erase just a little bit there. All right. Then it's saying y right here is 3.2 because y and 3.2, they're those congruent parts of the diagonal, because A to C cuts B to D in half. All right, so that's 3.2 because the diagonals bisect each other. All right, that's kind of how we would use it in a parallelogram. All right, for the rhombus, x is 12 because all four sides are congruent. All right, that's the main part of a rhombus. I'm just going to put the sign for congruent. I'm not going to write the word out. All right. Y is 68 because the diagonals bisect each angle. So 68 is the same as y, and that's because the diagonals bisect each angle. All right. Also, since it was a rhombus, if we wanted to ask, all these angles in the middle are 90 degrees, if they wanted to ask that. All right. Notice over on the square, x has to be 15 because all sides are congruent. All right. Y is 90 because the diagonals are, fancy word is perpendicular. They form right angles. All right. Now, the other cool thing about this square is that all these triangles, so triangle 1, triangle 2, 3, and 4, all 4 of those triangles are the exact same size. All right. They all have right angles right here because it's a square. All right. Each little side in here is the same, so they're also isosceles. So all 4 of those triangles are technically right isosceles triangles. All right, just a neat little fact. All right. The other cool thing is that since each one of these diagonals cuts it in half, what would normally be a right angle in the corner is split up into 45 on top, 45 on bottom. All right. So there's a lot of equivalency in each square that you see there. All right. I find that pretty cool. All right. Last ones down here are the now you try some. All right. I'm going to leave the rhombus and the parallelogram because we kind of already talked about an example there. All right. My hand on the parallelogram one. This is a triangle. So make sure all the angles of a triangle have to add up to 180. All right, and then you can use that to find here. Notice there's vertical angles and a couple other things. All right. For the rhombus, just make sure you label the stuff correctly. All right, and get everything in the right spot. All right, for the rectangle, just remember that, just remember that each angle is 90 degrees. So this is 90. 71 plus x has to be 90. All right. And this right here says A to C is y. All right, that line right there. So we get this little shape right here to find it. Notice that's a right triangle, so we're going to probably use either trig or the Pythagorean theorem. We'll look at that in a second. All right, but first one to find x, we know x plus 71 is 90. So I subtract 71. I get x is 19. All right, cool thing being here, all right, is that's also the same down here on the bottom. All right, that this part right here would be 71. The small part underneath would also be 19. Kind of cool. All right, so I want to redraw that little triangle that I have highlighted there. Sorry, I kind of got out of order there, guys. I apologize. We got our right angle. This side is 5. This side is 12. This side is y. All right. Now, as I said, when we were doing right triangles last week, we either used Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or we used trigonometry. All right, we used trigonometry if we knew 1 or 2 sides. All right, we used Pythagorean theorem if we had 3 sides. Well, we know 1 side and 2 sides, and we want to look for the third side. So it's all 3 sides, so we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. Y is my hypotenuse, so it's going to be y squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared. All right, I'm just going to work on this side. 25 is 5 squared. 12 squared is 144. Add those together, that's 169. I got a square root. Y is 13. All right. So we're going to use a lot of the triangle stuff we've been talking about the past several weeks. All right. We're also going to have to apply those different things up there and look at different things. So it's kind of like you're putting together a puzzle, guys. All right. As I said, I would make sure I have this chart where I can see it while I'm working on my assignment, because it's going to be very helpful if you're looking at it. All right. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. You should, unless you turn stuff in for me this morning, you should already have it graded and returned back to you. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. All right. And take care, guys. Hope you're all doing well.